I'm going to talk today about what if you get a shear into Sharpen and it's something really weird and you've never seen it before. What do? You stop and answer the phone. Seriously, phone call might be your best friend when you get something like this. If there's a brand name on the shear, you might want to contact the manufacturer and see if there's anything special you need to know about these shears. This happens to be a Jaguar shear, and I've never seen this before. It's kind of weird looking. It's obviously needs a bumper, but tips aren't coming together, and kind of a wacky thing. So I contacted Germany, sent them an email. I don't speak German, and asked them about it, and they said, yeah, this is an older discontinued shear, and they said just sharpen it like a regular one, and that the handles here are like a little Allen wrench to tighten them. Now my question is, because here's the letter I got. She says, I'd like to have them fully sharpened and serviced. Current issues I'm having, there seems to be a snag near the tips of the blade that's catching the hair but refusing to cut it. Well, that's, yeah. And when using the movable feature of the handles, they no longer stay tight when cutting. This is true sometimes even after tightening them. If you could include a tension adjusting tool in the shipment back to me, I'd appreciate it. I can probably find an Allen wrench or something. Bill me for the additional tool. So she's got two issues. One is a loose screw, and that is that little fun UFO screw that we get out of Germany. This seems to have like two bumpers. I call this like a European bumper when it's up here on the handle. And then this one's missing altogether. Now, I don't know if this is supposed to wiggle or move a little bit. But she says one's loosening up, so I assume this is the one that loosens up. So these are weird. I guess it's so you can turn it this way. I've never seen anything like this, have you? Hey, put comment below if you've seen something like this. But I'm not sure what the purpose is unless you could turn it this way and make it an offset, or turn it this way and make it straight. Interesting concept. So let's always address the hardware issues. So I'm going to look at fixing the bumper, tightening this. This bumper looks okay, and then making sure that screw holes. Then we get into sharpening it. And this oh yeah, that's why she's having a problem. There's a nick right here. And these are a convex. Maybe convex that someone has semi-convexed it after the fact. Shears, so tip is a little bit stripped, but not bad. So, other thing you want to do when you get something like this, before you get into sharpening it, before you even do the hardware, let's take a piece of just single ply toilet tissue and cut with it. That is a weird feeling shear, because when you go to close it, it just sort of, I see why she has to have that tightened. Yeah. Let's see if I cut with it. Oh, this is just too weird. Ugh. Alright, let's get busy on it. Let me find an Allen wrench first. Hey, before we get started on this shear, if you're new to my channel, just want to introduce myself. I'm Bonnie Megowan. Our company's Bonika Shears. I do a lot of YouTube videos, so make sure you subscribe and go take a look at my channel and watch some of my other videos. I do a lot of training. I enjoy training. We have training classes here and even a group free sharpeners jam every year. We have the Bonika line of shears and then also sharpening equipment, and we do a lot to supply shear sharpeners and clipper blade sharpeners. So let's get started on this shear. And luckily, I didn't have to go on a hunt for the little Allen wrench, the little tool to tighten it, because this is the same tool we use on our Cymec to tighten our detente so we can set the angle. So it's a size I already had. And when does that ever happen? Thought we were going to have to go on a little treasure hunt today, so let's get going on this. If you get something really weird, chances are I've seen it. This is one I have not seen. So if you have something unusual, let me know. Now, if this handle is bent out, you see that tips won't come together, so that has to be here. So I don't think it's supposed to move while she's cutting. I think she's just supposed to be able to adjust it what feels comfortable to her. I do know that this tightens, but I'm thinking I don't want to tighten it down tight until I've put a bumper down in here. So let's get started on that first. Oh, sometimes I ruin my fingernails getting these little inserts out. Now, typically Jaguar has these hard bumpers, and those are a pain, and you know what to put in, these little hard bumpers. Here comes my lunch, so we'll come back to this. Okay, so if you sharpen shears, it's good to have one of these little probe or picky things, some type of thing like that, because you see the old bumper is still in there. And I've got to pick that out. Now, if you hear those little ticking sounds, that's actually Bo. Hey Bo, you want to say hello to my camera? I really like the screw-in bumpers. They're a lot easier to deal with than this. When the screw-in bumpers first came out, a lot of us sharpeners just hated them because they made the shears feel stiff, and I know a lot of sharpeners, including myself, would swap them out for the pull-through rubber bumpers. But now the stylists are used to them. They know they have a stiffer feel to them, and so and they're just a lot easier to put in, and they're easier to come by. When they first came out, I was like, where do you get these? Alright, so let's look at bumpers. See, normally I close these wherever I need it to be to know what size bumper, but this you can adjust the handle. Let's see what size. I think the little bitty ones are going to work on these. And that looks sort of like the hard bumpers that comes on these anyway. So if the Jaguar police comes back behind me, some of my Jaguar friends said they were going to watch my video on how I do this. No pressure. They won't see that I'm switching out bumpers. And before I get it all the way in, I put a little drop of glue right there. Now, my biggest issue in sharpening is finding my glue. And when I do find my glue, it's usually completely dried up where it won't come out. And I think that's the issue with this one. Glue. Here, glue. Oh, here's the glue. I know a lot of you have told me your choices of glue, and I appreciate it. Oh, this one works. This is just a really cheap super glue. The nail glue I like from the beauty supply, but I just haven't got around to going over to get more. I think this pandemic has made us all lazy, so we're not not going to the stores as much. Okay, that looks about right. So now I want to see if I can tighten. I assume she wants these straight, like that. I'm having to guess. But if I send her the Allen wrench so she can adjust them, then that should take care of it. So I'm going to tighten this as tight as I can. Righty-tighty. Make sure my tips are coming together. That's slipping on me. That's part of the problem. Now we have to take them apart, and I hate this screw. Let's trim this off down here first. If you have old nail cuticle nippers, this is what I like to trim them off with. You could also use a knife, X-Acto knife, whatever. So that's off, and then I'm going to put this back in. So that looks good. So far, so good. I'm going to send this to her. And I want to take these apart. I need the special little tool from Jaguar for that. Otherwise, I'm going to have a hard time taking them apart. That's it. There's one that comes from Pakistan that looks identical, but it doesn't work the same. This one is the one that we need. Now, question, I can take this all the way out and then put a new one in, which is the correct way to do it. If you are sharpening these and you don't have replacement screws, I would try to tighten it and sharpen it as best you can without taking it apart, because these screws, even if you have them, are difficult to put in. These have like a little washer with a rectangular slot in it that fits pretty tight. Yeah, this washer is totally disintegrated. Look at that. So it's a good thing I took it apart. Man, that just went to dust, didn't it? I said these are old model of shears, so there's no telling how long that washer's been in there. So those of you that have been watching me for a while know that I'm pretty sloppy. That's the check from the lady. With my work area. So I tend to be a little cluttery here. I have a certain system I use in sharpening. One is I clean off the shears first. I kind of inspect them. Yeah, they definitely got all kinds of nicks and stuff in them. Now, this is a 2000 grit Nanawa stone. It's my current favorite. There's been other favorites of mine, and there's nothing wrong with the other ones. It's just kind of something new. I have a 4000 Kitayama that we recommend. It's 4000 and 1000. Hand gets stiff doing this. And it's kind of sad. Right now I have the strongest hands in the family, which isn't saying much. So what I'm doing is I'm working the rod line, putting my pressure here. So I've got my clamp set on 45 degrees. I have a worn 800 grit. What do you want, Bobo? Yeah, I'm going to get a little bit better convex shape for it. Now I heard one person that was doing some sharpening trainings was talking about we Americans don't sharpen correctly. We don't cover the whole surface. Well, it depends on how you sharpen. The clamp I have, see, I can start all the way in the back if I wanted to and roll all the way to the edge. I usually come in kind of flat and then roll to the edge. But that, you know, kind of thins out the blade a little bit and gives me a good edge on it. As much as you can follow what the manufacturers was wanting the shear to do, there's no need taking off more metal than you have to. But you do want to, you know, if it's a convex edge shape, which is obviously the high end of the Jaguar shears because it is convex, you want to follow it. So I'm coming in flat and then I roll to the edge. Then I might rock back and forth a little bit. And I do a little slight rocking this way to get the tip and get the back. You notice I don't pull it out as I sharpen. Some people do, and I won't say it's wrong. I'm just saying that you have a tendency to take off too much metal here at the tip, and you also have a tendency of, you pulling it out, of doing something like this, where you have the tips curved down, or coming out like this. And so as much as you can, keep the whole blade on there. Somebody's texting me. Let's see who's texting me. Oh, somebody in Pakistan wanting to sell me their scissors. I'm going to hit block. So if you are a Pakistani watching my video, you're going to have to find a new way to get a hold of me, I think. I have nothing against anyone from Pakistan. It's just I get like 2 or 3 emails, sometimes phone calls a day, and if I don't know you, I have a tendency to block you, and that's a shame, because I have some really good friends that are from Pakistan or Pakistani. In fact, we don't get any shears from Pakistan. We do get our scissor cases from Pakistan. We get a lot of our scissor parts from Pakistan. And that's the Jaguar stone, what I'm doing here. Can you see me here? I'm kind of cleaning up the surface of it. And all I'm going to do, I'm just knocking that burr off, making sure it's gone. Yeah, the sharpening on these shears is not the difficult part. When it comes to these Jaguar shears, it's the hardware. It's the bumpers and the screws and all of those things that makes you crazy when you're sharpening those shears. Thank you to my friend Tim who brought me this polish. I'm experimenting with it. I'm always experimenting with new polishing techniques. I've got some over there my friend Alex sent me that as soon as I get a little extra time, I'm going to do a real experiment with all the polish. If that's something you want to see, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I don't know when I'll be videotaping that, when I'll be editing it. Let's go a little faster. It's nice and shiny. You notice I adjusted my clamp, moved the detente up a couple of degrees so that I don't roll over the edge, and you see how nice and shiny that is. Pretty pleased with the polish I get. You know, things can always be better. And then I put my polishing pad back in plastic so it stays clean. Alright, clean these off with alcohol. If y'all having trouble getting rubbing alcohol, put some comments below about things that you're having trouble with this pandemic time in getting. You may be watching this post-pandemic. I don't know. Right now it feels like we'll always be in it, but I'm sure there'll be a time when things will open up again. Now that we've got vaccines. So I'm going to have to go find a screw to replace this screw. So the new replacement screws are different than the old type of screw that came out. That screws into here, where this is just on top. So I'm going to try to get away with the current screw. I am putting a new washer in here. So I want to put these back together, but do it without pushing this plastic piece up. And Didn't do it. You see how it pops up? That's a booger to get back down in there. See if I have something I can press it down. Ah, went down easier than I expected. So here's my little O-ring. And a lot of times people will say, oh, I want to get factory trained or what have you. What you don't understand is that the sharpening that we do here in the field, you really can't learn in the factories, because we're seeing things that are discontinued shears, or in some cases, not necessarily this one, but in some cases were just bad designs that the shear makers no longer make for whatever reason. We've had some of our own Bonikas that I shudder when they come back for warranty issues. That we deal with things that they would never have to come across in the factory. So sometimes your best training is with experienced shear sharpeners, have a good reputation. If they've been trained in the factory, so much the better, that you feel like they've got maybe a little bit more of an understanding of some of the things that's going on. But training with people that have gone through a lot of different things. I'm pulling out my tissue paper now, single ply tissue. I'm doing a cut through, and that screw is too tight. Let me loosen it up. And that looks like the right adjustment. Let's see how this cuts. Those are weird feeling. Oh, those are weird feeling shears. Undoubtedly she likes them. Okay, this is wet tissue. Now what wet tissue tells me? It does not tell me how sharp it is. Wet tissue tells me if I got all the burrs out and I've got all the nicks gone, because if there's a nick or a burr, it's going to tear the paper instead of cutting it. Now, a lot of people advocate cutting hair, and there's not anything wrong with that, but that to me is not the best test. The wet tissue is, because I kind of know what the sharpness is because I set the clamp at a certain angle. It's a 45-degree angle. But you see how nice that cuts hair. Now she said it was pulling at the tip, and it's not. It's a nice crisp cut. So it actually cut pretty nice. So if you come across a shear that's a really strange shear like this, yeah, weird shear. Don't be afraid of it. I would look it up on the internet, see if you can find it. If you can't find it and there's something unusual about it, you may want to contact the manufacturers or whoever made it, and just compare it to other shears you've done and see, you know, what you need to do. Is it convex, is it bevel, and follow those guidelines. But don't go too crazy over it. There may be something unusual about it that you need to ask whoever made the shear. And hopefully it's from a company that's willing to share that information. So these are going back to her, and I hope that's been of some help when you come across something different. And you know what? I've been sharpening 30 years, and I still see a lot of new shears that have been around, but they're new to me. So, and new screws, new things. And when I find them, I share them. So that's why you need to subscribe to the channel, and I'll try to post anything unusual that I see.